The year is 1997, and Konami just released their breakout hit Suikoden for the PlayStation, a game where you play as a watermelon in a Japanese convenience store soup display. The president of Konami, King Konami, was sitting at the monthly board meeting and said, "Suikoden was great, you guys, but wouldn't it be hella sick if the game had, more guns, more women, and, more nanomachines?" The board gave a resounding yes. King Konami did a kickflip with his dad's filing cabinet, and then everyone clapped. "We need an up-and-comer to direct this," he said. The board gave another resounding yes. Well, luckily for them, they did have an up-and-comer in their ranks by the name of Hideo Kojima, a young man who had developed a new technique for creating map layouts in video games using toy bricks known as Legos. Hideo had an idea for a brand new style of game, a tactical espionage action-type game. Even though his only experience was making the direct-to-VHS homage to Escape from New York known as Metal Gear on the MSX2, this ended up being the perfect jumping-off point. And so, development on Metal Gear Solid Raiden's Revengeance Substantial Subway Sandwich began. This would solidly rock the foundation of video games to its dense and metal core. But before we can talk about the games, we have to talk about the guy behind the games. Born in August 1963, Hideo Kojima's early life was one of a typical introvert. He would watch films with his family every night, and eventually start making films with his friends. As a young adult, the first video game he would ever work on was called Penguin Adventure, a game about going on an adventure as a penguin. He couldn't tell any of his friends or family about working in the video game industry because it was against Japanese law in the 80s to be anything but an investment banker or a policeman. Slowly advancing his career, he would eventually gain the permission to direct his own games, and right off the bat, he would create revolutionary ideas. He would go on to create the legendary top-down shooter Metal Gear for the MSX2, introducing now beloved video game tropes like cigarettes and cardboard boxes. The game was the first of its kind, introducing stealth mechanics in place of run-and-gun action, and a main character that was based on both Christopher Walken and Kurt Russell. His love of film that blossomed as a child was evident in his creations, and only came to true fruition with the release of Metal Gear Solid in 1998 for the Sony PlayStation. For the first time on our cathode ray tubes in our shitty brown carpeted living rooms, we were gifted with fully animated and voice-acted in-engine cutscenes, first-person air duct action, and even rats. There are weapons to shoot, boxes to hide in, trucks to backtrack fast travel with, cyborg ninjas that make grown men go pee-pee in their pants, and fourth wall breaks that make you question everything you know about renting a game from Blockbuster because they didn't give you the jewel CD case that had vital information for advancing the story printed on the back of it. There were adult themes, goofy tongue and ass cheek writing, and things that seemed like they were mistranslated, but I don't think they were. There were cowboys, babes, and even supernatural elements, all underpinned by a highly advanced nuclear-capable bipedal mech that could launch the world into apocalyptic chaos as soon as the terrorist organization Foxhound could figure out how to get the keycards to work. The game was praised by critics and gamers alike, and a legacy was fucking born. Metal Gear Solid was finally here. Not long after, but coincidentally quickly after Kojima was crowned King of Konami, development began on Metal Gear Solid 2, Buns of Liberty. The sequel was met with many trials and changes of direction. One most notably being the game taking a delay before release of a couple weeks due to the 9/11 attacks on America. I mean, it derailed The Sopranos, so why couldn't it derail an alternate history video game with a bisexual vampire? There was even a possibility that the game would get scrapped completely, causing Kojima to step down from his newly crowned position, but in the end some scenes and dialogue were simply changed to adjust for sensitivity. Before release, a demo of the first level was let loose on the public. In one of the greatest demos of all time, you play a snake on a tanker.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking
tanker. Fans went ballistic. The graphics were amazing, the details were incredible, the gameplay was vastly improved, and you could also kiss posters of hot babes inside lockers and make Otacon uncomfortable. This was 2 to 5 hours of solid gameplay that melted the world of video gaming. Everyone was ready for more. Of course, we all know by now this would come with a twist. On full release, after completing the tanker chapter, we gain control of a new character for the rest of the game. This was Kojima's first big ruse, a trait he would come to be known for. You play through the rest of the game as popular member of AKB48 Raiden. I remember at the young age of 12 getting to this point in MGS2 on a rented PS2 with no memory card, and being totally okay with it. She's so cute, and even on release, I didn't really see the problem with playing as a female character. I continued to play through the game in 2 or 3 sittings, not turning the PlayStation 2 off once over 2 days, and finished it before having to return the thing at the end of the weekend. I'm still not sure how I accomplished it, but I fondly remember the way in which this game spoke to me. It was the first media I ever consumed with adult themes and concepts that I paid attention to and absorbed. This was a turning point not only for me, but for the medium as a whole. And then Twin Snakes was released. Look, it's easy to make jokes about this game, but this one meant more to me than MGS2 or 1. It's the one I've replayed the most. It's the first one I bought on release. It's the first one I knew about before it came out, and it's the first one I think of when I think of Metal Gear. I know, it's a divisive one, but it's in the running for my favorite. Just a few years later, that's right, remember the time back when direct sequels were not only prevalent, but it only took like 2 years to come out? The video game world would be rocked again by the release of MGS3, Snake Eater. If we thought cinema and art meeting video games had peaked by this point in MGS2, we were babbling morons. MGS3 was a top-tier production of blood, sweat, love, and tears. Kojima's spectrum fractaled out brilliantly in this game through all of its facets and manifested in a 2-minute speech by Snake about a customized 1911 while a bombshell stands nearby half-naked just waiting to bone. The gameplay was further improved, the dialogue and cutscenes had even more charm, and the overall historical fiction Cold War aesthetic of the game just came together so perfectly that it made it the first Metal Gear I ever remember people, beside me or my friend Zach, talking about it before release. It seemed like this was the one that brought Metal Gear further into the casual gamer sphere, and honestly, there's not many other games that deserve such a brilliant blossom at such a great time in gaming. Further installations would follow and surround these releases, including a card game spin-off which is catching current notoriety for being overlooked, and a Game Boy game that absolutely kicked ass known as Ghost Babel. I spent many hours in the backseat of the family van playing it while going places I couldn't give a shit about. I was stupid back then, but I wouldn't want to remember childhood any other way, honestly. Big props to my parents for putting up with that. Come 2008, and the PS3 is in full swing. Kojima's burnt out. This is a dark age of console gaming. Threequels abound, and numbers beyond 2 are simply too high to count for the modern consumer, who are now born with 1 finger per hand. Controllers are advancing at an alarming rate, and the haptic feedback invented by the Jaguar CD gaming system is on the horizon of returning, like the 4 horsemen, waiting to pulsate their plagues into your sphincter. Anyways, MGS4 gets an iPod, and a barrel. There's poop jokes. 2-hour-long cutscenes and a microwave chamber that you have to crawl through for long enough to make a large human turn into a Trader Joe's Indian dinner. And I gotta say, it's the best, worst Metal Gear of them all. It is one giant pendulum swing of Metal Gear. I replay it about once every 3 or 4 years and struggle every time to get through it, but also cannot stop once I've started. I can't get enough of the over-the-topness of it all. It absolutely puts Twin Snake's rocket backflip to shame. The whole game is a backflip off of a rocket. It makes me feel like the theory of most of the games just being VR is actually canon, and that MGS 1 and 4 are the only ones that happen in reality because it's all just so unbelievable and insistent on itself. It's amazing. Kojima liked messing with us before, but this one feels like a thinly veiled fuck you to Konami and the expectations of the industry as a whole. Instilled in that, though, is a love letter to the gamers presented in a delicious Trader Joe's microwave Indian dinner that doesn't ever assume you're an idiot. I love this trait in media. And honestly, all of Kojima's following games make that mark. Like an uncle at a dinner party who won't shut the fuck up, it commands your attention and won't let it go. This ain't MGS3 or Phantom Piano. People either truly love or hate number 4, but everyone admits it's a top-tier entry to the series. Peace Walker would arrive next, and it was a simple return to form, in some ways. This game is wonderful, easy to play, and advances on the series in positive ways. The story is succinct, well-written, and probably one of the most cohesive storylines in the whole series. It introduces Kazuhira Miller, an important, aspiring burger chef who would become an incredibly pivotal character moving forward, as well as Paz and Chico, another very interesting set of characters that would go on to be explosive. The early Patriot AIs and the way they are presented is one of my favorite things in any Metal Gear. The way they hum that song by the Carpenters Sing, it haunts me, and I find myself having the song pop into my head at least once a week because of it. The cutscenes drawn by Ashley Graham are a personal favorite of mine, as I even have memories of going to my local comic book store and getting the Metal Gear comics he illustrated as they released. It had a bit of a grindy Monster Hunter feel to it with some of its challenges, but overall it was an excellent addition to the series and remains a fan and personal favorite. Okay, we're in the home stretch, and I'm saying this truthfully and personally. As a lifetime fan of Metal Gear since its 3D inception, and from the very bottom of my cyborg heart, the Phantom Pain and its baby brother, Ground Zeroes, are the best Metal Gears of all time. It is my favorite Metal Gear. It came to me at the perfect time in my life and affected me so positively, more than any of the others ever had. And I know it sounds corny, but the game gave me so much courage to start making my own choices in life. The twist of playing the whole game as a body double, the ruse before it was released, the perfect smattering and length of cutscenes and badassery, the exposition of story through tapes you can listen to while you play the game, the music, the fan service, the characters, the gameplay, how we are constantly questioning whether what we're seeing is a hallucination or not. It wraps up the whole story and feeling of Metal Gear in this little package of knowing that the truth can be warped and so can your perception of it. It was the perfect way to end the series. It was the perfect way for Kojima to leave Konami, and I think that's the perfect way to end this video. It was almost as good as Death Stranding.